Hey guys, welcome to Did You Get That on Film? On this podcast, we deep dive into horror movies, and so it is full of explicit content as well as spoilers. Please be advised. Now, let's get to the show.
This is Did You Get That on Film, where we discuss characters in terrible situations that we would never find ourselves in. I'm your host DP, and with me always is my co-host, someone who would actually be useful if we're being attacked by flesh-eating zombies. My dear friend, Ruth.
Hello, everyone.
Ruth, I assume that you would be useful. I know you'd be useful.
I mean, I know I'd be a hell of a lot more useful than Barbara. That's for damn sure.
You guys, we have talked about a lot of useless and awful characters, but today we are bringing you the pinnacle, the original, the first dummy of horror.
I wish we had some kind of awards ceremony.
My God.
So, in case you guys don't know what the hell we're talking about, we are discussing Night of the Living Dead, a classic. It was released in 1968, and it was directed and co-wrote by George A. Romero, with the other writer being John Russo. George A. Romero actually rewrote this screenplay and then made it into a 1990s remake starring the Tony Todd, who we love. And that one was directed by Tom Savini, so another horror legend. So the official franchise includes 5 sequels. So they were released between 1978 and 2009. So these were all directed by George A. Romero. So we have Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead. At the time of the film's release, any work that didn't include a copyright notice was assumed to be public domain. And George A. Romero kind of didn't really know what he was doing when he made this movie, as far as the logistics goes, the official stuff. So they released it and the movie immediately went into the public domain. So there's been a lot of, I guess you could say they're kind of unofficial adaptations and remakes that use the name or something very similar to the name, but those are the only movies that were actually penned and directed by George A. Romero. So you have those 5 sequels and then that 1990 remake. There was actually supposed to be in the 2010s George A. Romero, so he was upset with the way that Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead ended, and so he actually co-wrote a conclusion to the series. I think it was supposed to be a follow-up to Land of the Dead, which is the movie directly preceding those 2. So he was just going to jump off from there. He wrote the beginnings of it, but the project ended up stalling and he ended up dying of lung cancer in 2017. So that is a sequel that we unfortunately never got. But it was announced in April 2021 that I think that they might be putting that film back into development, and it's going to be under the supervision of Suzanne Romero. So Suzanne Romero said, quote, "This is the film he wanted to make, and while someone else will carry the torch as the director, it's very much a George A. Romero film." So I think in August 2023, the film was announced, and it was supposed to be starting production in fall of 2023, once the SAG-AFTRA strikes were over. And they did announce a director for it, so Brad Anderson. So I guess we'll have to be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
I know that was a lot. There's a lot of these movies.
There's a lot of these movies.
People love zombie stuff.
You could get rid of everything else, and this is still like it.
Yeah, so this is like the movie that started it all, like started the whole zombie craze. Everything that we know about zombie stuff originated here.
It feels modern compared to something like Rosemary's Baby that came out the same year.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, he really pushed the envelope with this one.
Yes.
And it was unintentional on his part, but we are including, so this is going to be the first movie in our, I guess, like Black History Month series where we're talking about movies that highlight either Black filmmakers, actors, predominantly Black movies, just anything that kind of focuses on the Black experience, gives praise to Black performers. This movie, it was not an intentional choice, but it ended up being a very good choice. The lead protagonist, Ben, is actually played by a Black man, Dwayne Jones. He really knocks it out of the park. So I'm excited to talk about this one because that's another way this movie acts as a trailblazer just in the genre in filmmaking.
They didn't have Black protagonists.
Mm-mm. No, straight up. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about it because I'm very eager to. I have some feelings. I have a lot of feelings that I want to get into. So the movie opens with siblings Johnny and Barbara, and they're making this 3-hour drive to a cemetery that's in a rural part of middle of nowhere ass Pennsylvania. They are going to visit their father's grave on their mother's behalf. Now, Johnny isn't too happy to be there because, I mean, it's a 6-hour fucking round trip. I don't blame him. They're just going to put some fucking flowers on the grave. God, I sound like a real asshole. Sorry.
I mean,
6 hours is a lot. And apparently they don't even like remember their dad. So I think that he probably died when they were very young. So they get there, and as they're putting the flowers down at their father's grave, Barbara kneels to say a little prayer. But Johnny is really ready to get the fuck, like yesterday, because he's like, you could pray at church. I'm ready. I'm ready to get home. We're not going to get home until like fucking midnight. Now, in the distance, Johnny sees a man just kind of walking, meandering, and he starts to reminisce about how when they were younger, he used to jump out and scare Barbara in this same cemetery when they would visit. So at this point, Johnny realizes that Barbara is still very much afraid of the cemetery. So he really starts to poke fun at her. And that's when we get this, I mean, totally iconic line.
they're
They're
coming
coming
to
to
get
get
you,
you,
Barbara.
Barbara.
Stop! You're
You're
ignorant.
ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
I love it.
I love it because it's the dialogue from the movie that you hear within Halloween 2.
Yeah, you do. So Barbara is not really happy with Johnny's shit. And while they're joking around, we see that man that's been approaching them from the distance is one of the theirs that's coming to get her. So Johnny pretends to run away, but Barbara doesn't want to offend this guy. So she walks by him with the intention of apologizing. And he just like fucking grabs her and starts attacking her. So Johnny was right. They really were coming to get Barbara. This man is pale. His clothes are very tattered. He looks kind of out of it. So Johnny runs over and wrestles him off of Barbara. But as they're wrestling, this ghoul slams Johnny's head into a tombstone and kills him. So that's the first kill of the movie. Rest in peace, Johnny. So this ghoul then chases Barbara, who falls, but she does kick off her shoes and she continues running barefoot. She ends up climbing into Johnny's car, not realizing that he took the keys with him. So she locks herself inside, but this ghoul because they don't say zombie in the movie. They do not call them zombies. So I won't call them zombies.
Things.
On the news report, I think they call them ghouls once. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a word I'll go with. This ghoul is very resourceful because he picks up a big fucking rock off the ground and he breaks the window and tries to reach in to grab her. And she does one of the smarter things that she does in the whole movie. She ends up unlocking the car's brake, which allows it to start rolling. And they're a bit uphill, so it is rolling at a good pace. And so by doing that, she is able to get away from the ghoul, but he is pretty hot on her heels. I mean, he's not running, but I mean, he's moving with a purpose. But the car ends up crashing into a tree, so she gets out and she makes a run for it down the road. She goes through this field and she ends up at an old farmhouse. Once she's inside, she locks the doors, she arms herself with a knife from the kitchen, and then she starts to look around. When she enters the living room, it looks like there's been a struggle. There's some stuff that's kind of turned over. She continues through the study, and she can see out the window that not only is that one particular ghoul still following her, but there's new ones appearing. She tries to use the phone to call for help, but it's dead. So she tries running upstairs, and this is when she finds the homeowner's corpse at the top of the stairs. Her face has been eaten off. And she screams and runs out the front door. I guess this is when she just like broke. Barbara never fucking mentally recovers from this. I mean,
Which I guess is some level of reality.
I don't know if you've ever watched that show, Ed, Ed, and Eddie, but there's a kid on that show that has a board, a wooden plank as a best friend. I would have rather have seen his acting chops in this movie than Barbara's, because Barbara is so fucking infuriating. But she runs out the front door just as Ben, our protagonist, is pulling up. They stare at each other for a moment, sizing each other up, and Ben determines that she's not a ghoul, so he pushes her into the house and locks the door to escape the ever-growing number of ghouls outside. So Ben initially thinks that Barbara is the homeowner, so he starts asking her some very, very basic questions, but she's shocked and mute at this point, as she will remain.
She was looking at him like he was speaking a different language.
She was looking at him like he was a different species. But as he searches around, that's when Ben sees the actual homeowner on the stairs. And he's like, okay, we need to get the fuck out of here. We need to get to a place with more people. He starts looking through the house for supplies and foods so they can make their escape. When Barbara, who's a stumbling, bumbling, dumbling mess, she gets some blood dripped on her from the dead homeowner, and she is losing it. She's unraveling at the seams. So she finally finds her voice and she asks Ben, like, what the hell is going on? But before he can answer, he hears some ghouls outside messing up his car. There's two of them that he can see. So he feels confident that he can dispatch those two ghouls. And he keeps asking Barbara, are there any more fucking ghouls out there? Which we know that Barbara saw at least 3 of them. But she's too fucking hysterical to answer. So Ben goes outside and he's knocking Blicken blocks off with this tire iron. And he is able to kill the 2 ghouls that were damaging his car. But inside, where the hysterical Barbara is doing nothing, one of the ghouls actually gets into the house and is creeping up on her. But luckily, Ben makes it back inside and he saves her by beating the ghoul in the head with a tire iron. And he's like, shit, this is a lot of fucking work.
You are useless.
Exactly.
Don't look at him.
That's what he says. He's like, just go sit down somewhere. But before he can fucking relax, he sees another one coming through the open kitchen door. He's able to push that one out, but he can see that there's a horde that's moving in. The number is growing pretty quickly. So the ghouls are aware of their presence at the house and they're coming to get them.
Can they smell them?
I don't know. Maybe they can smell fresh flesh. Maybe it's a lot of commotion, right? He pulled up in a car. She's hysterical. He's knocking blick and blocks off. It's just he's yelling at her. So he then drags the ghoul that found its way into the house outside, and he ends up setting its body on fire. Then he goes back inside and he starts barricading the doors. So he resumes trying to find supplies, and he asks Barbara to find some wood to help nail the doors closed. But she's just, I'm sorry, because I know, like, I would tell y'all to take a drink every time we say this, that Barbara's fucking useless, but I don't want to be responsible for any of you dying from alcohol poisoning. She's just being so fucking beyond useless.
She has no survivor skills.
No.
At all. It's like, we need to do this or we're going to die. And she's like...
Exactly. That's exactly what she's like. She is a fucking bump on a log. Okay. Ben is getting very frustrated, but he's trying to keep calm because he understands that she's scared.
He tells her, I'm scared too.
Bitch.
I'm freaked out.
But we need to fucking work together. Find some damn wood.
Are you sure you're not one of them?
I know. He's like, I'm starting to have some doubts. So Barbara starts meandering through the house. Still, she's not fucking helping. She's looking at fucking music boxes and stuff. While Ben is working overtime times 10. He's fucking breaking down tables.
Breaking down doors. Just real, like, resourceful.
Yes. I mean, just doing what needs to be done. Because he's like, we need to fucking start boarding this shit up. I mean, did you not look outside? They're gathering pretty fucking quickly. I know he's tired. I know he's exhausted. So Ben is like, okay, bitch, can you at least just go in this box and pick out some big fucking nails? So I guess she's able to do that. Once they have the kitchen really well boarded up, he's like, all right, let's move on to the next room. And so he starts telling Barbara, or talking to the wall, who knows, no difference, that he discovered that the ghouls are afraid of fire. Now, he discovered this after a fuel truck crashed through a gas station where he was. So he was outside of a diner and he saw all this happen and it caught on fire. And all the ghouls started backing away from it. So this is the same diner where he took the truck that he's now driving. He escaped from there after he realized that he was surrounded by 50 or 60 ghouls, and he ended up plowing through them. And he said they didn't move or run. They just stood there staring at him while he ran them over. So all of this was obviously very traumatic for Ben. He's obviously going through a lot too. But Barbara finds her voice and she tells Ben about how she and Johnny were just coming up to put a wreath on their father's grave when they were attacked.
And damn near put in their father's grave.
Right. Ben, I was just laughing because I'm sure at this point Ben is over her because he's like, the time for chit chat has passed. He looks so absurdly disinterested in what she's saying. As she's telling the story, she's getting really worked up. So he tells her that she really needs to calm down because she's being like pretty hysterical at this point.
It's only 20 minutes in the movie. You gotta pace yourself, girl.
Wait, you can't be hysterical for all like 120 minutes. So Ben is trying to work quickly and efficiently because he's the only one who is. And so that's when Barbara starts saying that she needs to go out and get Johnny because he's out there alone.
But he's dead. You watch him die, you dummy.
You idiot.
You donut.
I just. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me put my empathetic hat on.
No.
Stop. I'm trying to see it from her perspective. It was her brother. They seemed close. She is upset. I get it.
But she watched him die.
She got to this house and saw that a homeowner's face was eaten off of its face. So when she says that she needs to leave this house, open this fucking door, in the wake of all these fucking ghouls outside, it's like, I'm trying to be patient with you, Barbara, but read the fucking room. You can't fucking go outside right now. Johnny isn't out there. Faceless homeowner is an indication of what's going to happen to you if you open this door. Ben feels the same way. She's hysterically saying, we need to go. We. Ben is like, bitch, I don't even know you.
I don't speak French. Sorry, we.
So she's screaming in his face, and he's really just trying to focus on the task at hand. And that's when Barbara grabs him, yells at him, and he tells her, your brother is fucking dead. He's dead. If he's not here, he's dead. So she tries to run out the front door. When he grabs her to pull her back so she isn't fucking eaten alive, she slaps him.
He was like, huh?
So Ben fucking
Cold
cocks
cocks her
in her fucking jaw.
He gives her that good old 2-piece and a biscuit.
2-piece biscuit and a pepper on the side. No drink. Straight up. He bruises that fucking jaw. And I was like,
but she was cruising for it.
She was cruising for that bruising. He gave her the knuckle sandwich that she was asking for. So of course it knocks her out because he's a grown man and he socked her one good.
Y'all, she cold knocked out.
Knocked out. I mean, we're not joking. It's a closed fist fucking punch to the jaw. I mean, it's really crazy. So she's out cold. He puts her on the sofa. So funny thing about this. So we were talking about this earlier. Dwayne Jones, who plays Ben, did not want this cold cocking in the movie. So this was really crazy for the time, right? Because this was 68. He is a black man. He just fucking decked this white woman's halls. This was a big deal at the time. And that's not why Ben didn't want it in the movie. Ben didn't want it in the movie because overall, as we'll see, his character is pretty level-headed. So originally, Ben's character was supposed to be just kind of like a truck driver, kind of country bumpkin. And he wasn't supposed to be white, but the character is not written with any race in mind.
But
right. I mean, it's 68. Typically, the protagonist of a movie like this is going to be a white male. But Ben came and he auditioned, and George A. Romero just thought he was the best man for the job. I mean, he just thought that he gave the best audition. But once they chose Dwayne Jones, who is a black man, for the role, I mean, George A. Romero didn't really think anything of it. But what they did do was tweak his character to kind of match a little bit more of Dwayne Jones as a person. Dwayne Jones was a very highly educated man. He went to like the universities in America, but he also studied at the Sorbonne in Paris. He went to acting school in New York. He got his like master's from NYU. I mean, he was a very, very, very educated man. He was a very, classically trained actor. This was his first big acting role, but I mean, he does a phenomenal job at it. So George A. Romero changed the role to fit more of who Dwayne Jones was. And Dwayne Jones was like, I would not hit a woman in a situation like this. Because he's really level-headed. And you see in the movie as it goes on, Ben, everybody has their fucking breaking points. Don't get me wrong. But Ben is patient as fuck with these crazy ass people that we're about to meet. And overall, he's pretty patient with Barbara too. So it is a little out of character that he would punch her like that, right? Because typically in a movie, you either have a guy that's going to hit a woman back, or you have a guy that's going to choose the like restrain the woman road. And so it did seem like a departure from his character for Ben to like punch her like that. I think it's crazy that it was a closed fist hit. I thought that was aggressive.
It wasn't even like a shake.
No, right. Yeah. Typically men will shake a woman, shake the shit out of her. Hollywood is not afraid to shake the shit out of a woman or slap a woman. We see slaps all the time, but a closed fist punch to the face is aggressive. So Dwayne Jones didn't like it, but George A. Romero was like, no, we're keeping it. And then after Dwayne Jones died, which he actually tragically died pretty young, he was only 55. He died of heart disease, I think, like something like a heart attack or something like that. But after he died, and when George A. Romero would go back and kind of discuss the role, he actually thought that Dwayne Jones was right, that he shouldn't have hit her. I guess it just worked better with his character. But it is, not condoning anyone hitting anyone, especially not a grown ass man close fish punching a woman in her face. But this was very progressive, right?
Yes.
To have a black man hit a white woman in the face and then you be rooting for him, like the audience roots for him still to this day. But yeah, so Barbara's cold cocked on the sofa, and Ben is able to find a radio station that is broadcasting what's happening. And they describe that a horde of these affected people are committing mass murder all along the East Coast. And they say that they're pretty ordinary looking people, but that they appear to be in some sort of trance. There's something just like kind of off about them. So he also says that the victims of these affected people look like they've been partially eaten, but they're still trying to confirm that. He also describes the whole ordeal as mayhem, and he tells people that they need to stay in their homes and lock their doors. So Ben looks out the window to do another check, and he sees that the horde outside is continuing to grow. So he ends up taking a chair outside and he douses it in lighter fluid, and he lights it on fire, and he throws it on the ground in front of the house just to kind of get the horde to back up for now because they're so afraid of fire. And he does that so he can finish boarding up all the doors and windows alone. So when Ben is done, he finally fucking gets to sit down for a minute with a cigarette. And he notices a closet, so he starts going through it looking for more supplies. And he finds some shoes for Barbara, and I thought that was really sweet because remember she kicked off her shoes earlier to run. So he also feels kind of bad for cold cocking the shit out of her. But in the closet also, he ends up finding a rifle with some bullets.
Nice.
Thank God these people were gun people, right?
We live on a farm. They probably shoot all kinds of stuff.
Right, they do live on a farm. So by now, Barbara is awake, and he ends up putting the shoes on her feet, but she's not responsive. We don't know if that's because she's in shock or her jaw has been rearranged.
She's probably just mad. I mean, he hit me.
Yeah, I mean, girl, you were doing a lot. It's either he'd punch you in the face or you get your face eaten off. So...
Stop it. You're ignorant.
You're ignorant. So he tells her that he's going upstairs but he will come down if he hears any trouble. He's like, I need to get the fuck away from you for a minute. But as Barbara is sitting listening to the radio, two men who we will learn are Harry and Tom, who've been fucking hiding in the cellar this whole time, come up to see what's going on. And Ben is like,
I know you lying.
Ben has spent the last 4 hours breaking down all the furniture in this house to fucking board up these doors and windows, making a fucking racket, having to sock this woman in the face. She's screaming. Y'all heard all of that, and now one person came up here to help. But now y'all want to come up here and fucking start making demands?
I would have killed him.
Me too. So Ben's like, I could have used some fucking help. And I know you heard Barbara screaming, like, what the fuck? And Harry, who is, I wrote in my notes, who is kind of a piece of shit, but I'm going to amend that. And I'm going to say Harry, who is a total fucking piece of shit, says, why would we come up here to help somebody? What do we look like? Decent fucking people? Ben has already had it up to here with Harry, and they've been interacting for 36 seconds.
It's like, if you think I just cold cock this white woman. I will just straight up kill you.
Right. Right. So you better check your tone, sir. So now Harry is trying to convince Ben that the safest place for them all is to be back in the cellar. Ben is certain the ghouls can't get into the house because it's completely boarded up. This is the crux of the argument.
Even, yeah.
Harry reveals that his wife Helen and daughter Karen are with him. His daughter is hurt, and he tells Ben that these things will be able to break through the wood that they've used to board up the door, because earlier they had to flee to this house because all those ghouls, I think it was like 5 of them, surrounded them, and they were able to flip his car. When Ben says they have no strength, because remember, Ben was able to like pretty easily kill just 3 of them by himself earlier and push one out of the house. Harry's like, well, they flipped my car. And Ben's like, any fucking 5 people can flip a car.
Flip a car.
You fuck.
Now that we add another character, so is Barbara still number 1 on the stupid list?
I can't even make that list because it's going to be ever changing. Because
I know,
every single
fun.
time somebody comes into the fucking picture, I'm like, this fucking idiot. But Harry is the worst kind of stupid because he's stupid and he also
Thinks he's smart.
And he also feels the need to make you think that he's smart. You know what I mean? He's dangerous because of that. And so that's like, I really don't like Harry. And Harry is like, well, that's the point though, isn't it? There are hundreds of these things out there. If we go to the cellar, we'll only need to protect a single door instead of a bunch of windows. Which, okay, that's when Tom, who is kind of a younger guy, he seems like an early 20s, he steps in and he's like, Harry, you do have a good point. There is only one entryway to protect. But if you think for even 10 fucking seconds,
5.
because there's only one way in and out, if they do fucking get in and they come to that door, we would have no way to escape.
We are totally screwed.
We'd be totally trapped. There's no windows. We wouldn't be able to see any rescuers. We wouldn't be able to tell what was going on. We just kind of be locked in here. But Harry is really adamant that the cellar is the strongest place. Ben calls it a death trap. Tom agrees. I can see the argument from both sides. I can. But I would never want to trap myself somewhere with no way out. I think they teach you that in like fucking self-defense 101. Like, I just make sure that there are 2 exits. I don't know. Right. If they break in, they break in. But if they break in the front door, I'll go out the back. If they break in the back, I'll go out the front. If they break in both at the same time, I'll go upstairs and just like climb out the window. Either way, I don't want to get, because once, I get it in the cellar, you'd only have to defend the door, but then it's like there's hordes of them. Once they got in the door, there wouldn't be really anything that you could do. You wouldn't be able to run past them. I don't know.
Oh, you do know. That's crazy.
I know.
You're trying to be nice to Harry. I'm not trying to be nice to Harry. It's life or death here. You're being weird. He being weird. And then it's not even just that he's saying it. It's like you said, I don't like this. Why is it so important for you to be right about this?
But not only for you to be right, but for you to like, it's so important that you
Or
make
the leader.
everyone else. Yes. Like everybody has to listen to what you're saying. Do what I say.
I had a friend like that. He used to like we would all hang out, and he would always like it was so important for him to be like the one like whatever we were gonna do that night and kick it. It was like we had to we had to all make sure we were doing what he wanted. Like it was so important that we always did his thing. Like this is what he wanted to get done. So like we want to do this, we want to go here, go to this bar, do this thing, and then it just sucked because we all hated hanging out with him.
Well, I'm ashamed to admit that when I was a young person, I think about it now and I'm like, God, I can't believe that I was like that. But I was somebody that really tried to dictate what we were doing. When I was in high school, we used to have like a movie night, and I used to want people to come over to my house and have like movie night because I really love stuff like that. But I only ever wanted people to come to my house. I wanted them to come to my house, and I wanted to pick the movie, and I would do so. And so it's like after a while, people stopped wanting to come to movie night, and it wasn't until I was older that I was like, God, what an insufferable fucking bitch. At the time, I didn't feel like I was an asshole because I was like, I would cook meals, like I would bake bread from scratch and like bake
So
brownies and do all kinds of stuff. But it was like at the end of the day, people were like, well, I kind of want to host. And I'd be like, no,
and be in my house.
now if you better not ask to come to my house. Now you pick the place, you pick the time. I'll show up for 10 minutes and then I'll be on my way. I can't imagine leading something these days, but yeah, but when I look back on it, I think about it and I was the Harry of my group and I'm so ashamed to say that.
I didn't know you then, but like that's
I
bad. But
know. No,
also,
yeah, you met me after that all wore off.
for you, like please, someone else do the work.
Exactly. And I was like, I don't have the strength. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the will to live. Just please somebody make the plans and I'll show up. It's a personality thing, I
It's a
think.
personality thing, but also it's just like at a certain point, Harry, when you just be like, okay, well, it's probably better that you guys stay up here. I'm going back down there, so when they come in here, they can eat y'all.
Right. Just Harry, think for 2 fucking seconds.
Because they didn't even know you were down there.
Right. Y'all could have fucking stayed down there. But it's like he wants to hear everybody say, wow, Harry, you're so right. We should all do what you want to do instead of just using reason. Like if the logical thing to do would be, okay, we're in here, we're boarded up, let's all just try to be quiet, let's ride this out, we can listen to the radio, we can watch the news broadcast. If by some strange reason they do break in, let's all retreat to the cellar. We'll be together if it comes to that. You know what I mean?
But you know how it is. It's like Harry's like, this little like bald man. And Ben is like this tall like movie star.
Strapping, yeah. So finally, Harry says that he is going back to the cellar and he's going to bar the door and he won't open it again no matter what. Because he's like, you should have listened to me because I'm in charge.
My mommy said that I am the big strong man.
Right. So Tom is like, bro, you're being an asshole and you
You
need to
being
think
weird.
more. It's very bizarre. What the hell is wrong with you? But before anybody decides anything, A few ghouls attack them through some of the boards. And so Ben keeps shooting them, but they don't go down until they're shot in the head. So that is something to note. So at this point, dozens of ghouls are showing up, and Harry is damn near hysterical. I mean, he really needed the coal cocking. But he's like, I'm going down to the basement. And then he's like, I'm taking Barbara. What the fuck is your problem? Why are you so fucking weird? What the hell is wrong with you?
It's a measuring contest between him and
Exactly.
Ben.
Because he's like, oh, Barbara is Ben's person.
Yeah. So I'm gonna protect her.
Right.
I want to show him.
And Ben is like, I think the fuck not. He said, if you're going to that death trap, then shut the fuck up and do it already. But you can't take any of the fucking supplies. You can't fucking take Barbara.
He wanted to take the TV. Are you stupid?
He wanted to take food. He wanted to take TV. You didn't take any of that before. Like, what? Just shut the fuck up and go downstairs. Ben is like, look, if it's up here, it's staying up here. So you could be the boss down there, but I'm the boss up here. So what?
Y'all, these are quotes.
No, straight up. No, straight up. He was like, you can be the boss out there. I'm
the boss up here.
Bitch. So he also throws in that it sucks that Harry's daughter has such a stupid fucking father. And I was like, damn, Ben is going for the jugular. Because why would you take Barbara? Why would you even suggest that?
She's over there basically dead.
So you just want to take her, what, to hurt my feelings? Go sit down.
Think about how silly that is. But that's how people be.
I know. This is a real person, and it's so unfortunate because every time you watch a zombie movie, there's always going to be this person. Because that's the real fucking issue. I mean, just like if you watch Walking Dead, there's always going to be this fucking person. This person is dangerous. They're the real danger.
Coming from inside your house.
Yes, the call's coming from inside the house. It's like the zombies are gonna zombie. We all know that. But it's like people like this are so fucking crazy and unpredictable and
because they have a point to prove.
Exactly.
They have a point to prove and they will do anything to prove it. And they'll put everyone in danger.
Exactly.
Because to be like, I gotta be the hero. I didn't like him.
I didn't like him either, and let's continue because it's only gonna get fucking worse. So Harry decides that he's gonna head to the cellar, and Tom decides that he's staying upstairs, and he is going to bring his wife Judy upstairs with him. So now downstairs in the basement, it's Harry, his wife Helen, and his sick daughter Karen. So we meet Helen, and she is trying to take care of their daughter, Karen, who is running a fever at this point, and she has some wound that needs to be bandaged. But Harry is too busy fuming about the fact that nobody's listening to him.
Still.
And right. You have a sick fucking daughter, but he's like, I'm the big man on campus, but nobody's listening to me. So he is upset about this cellar versus upstairs debate that they've gotten into. And so then she's trying to tell him about their daughter. And he's like, well, we'll see who's right when they come begging me to come in. And his wife, who has also clearly had enough of his shit, she's like, that's really important to you, isn't it? You fuck. She didn't say you fuck, but she did say that's really important to you, isn't it? Because she knows, I mean, he just really must be like this. Fucking insufferable. So Harry also mentions that on the radio reports, they're saying that whatever is happening here is happening all over. And Helen is like, a radio? She's like, there's a fucking radio up there and you have us locked down here in this fucking death trap? She's like, what if they give directions on how to get to safety? Or if they send out rescue personnel? Like, how the hell are we supposed to know anything? But Harry just, like, has to be right. And Helen is like, I fucking hate you. So they don't get along. And you can see why. Because Helen does seem a little bit more together there. Like she's one of the smarter people in the movie, or at least one of the more logical people in the movie right now. And she hates Harry.
But she married him.
She did. But she has this line where she's like we might hate living together, but we don't have to die together. Or like something along those lines. So I do think that she has also had it up to here with Harry too. So that's when they hear Tom calling from upstairs, and he's saying that there's a TV set. So Helen says, take that goddamn board off that door right now. I'm going upstairs. But she asked Tom to send Judy down to just watch after Karen for a little bit. Judy doesn't want to, but Tom asks her to help him. So she agrees. Judy is very much in love with Tom. They are a very loving couple.
They are very, very, very like nice little couple.
They're sweet. Yes, they're a nice young little newlywed couple. Bless them. So upstairs, Helen meets Barbara, who's still fucking catatonic, still not speaking. So I guess she doesn't really meet her. She lays eyes on her. And Harry is just ranting and raving about all the weak spots in the boarded up windows instead of fucking doing something about them. He's just like critiquing Ben's work, who I would like y'all to remember, Ben did all of this shit by himself. And Helen, who is just as irritated with him as we are, is like, why don't you shut the fuck up and do something to help somebody? He doesn't. But that's when Ben and Tom, they bring the TV into the living room and they plug it in so they're getting some live news reports. So on the news, this is the first time that we learned that people who have recently died are the ones that are reanimating and committing these acts of murder. So there's been reports from funeral homes and hospitals, and they're saying that all the unburied dead are then coming back to life and looking for human flesh to eat. I know. Anybody that dies will reanimate. It's just a matter of minutes as soon as someone dies. So they have to be carried out to the street and burned immediately. It is that serious. Your feelings, the sentiment, it just kind of has to go out the door. The news also reports that people should try to head to a rescue station near them that has supplies, medical aid, and the National Guard instead of locking themselves in their homes. So there's apparently these rescue stations located all along the east. They're reading off a list for people to figure out which one is the nearest to them. So the news also reports that this may all be being caused by a high degree of radiation that's coming from an exploded space probe that was returning from Venus, but it can't be confirmed.
Just real obscure. That's some crazy. That sounds crazy. Like what? You know how far Venus is?
Dante, I was like, okay, sure. I mean, at least they tried to explain it. A lot of times they don't explain.
Well, this was like before the moon landing.
Yes. So the reports also say that anyone that's been injured absolutely has to seek medical attention. So now they're trying to figure out just how badly injured Karen is, Harry's daughter, because she's really languishing in this cellar. So the group has that truck that Ben commandeered earlier, and he's like, but it's almost out of gas. If we could get some gas, we can make it to one of these rescue stations. On this property, luckily, there is a gas pump, but it's locked, so they need to find the key. After some searching, they do end up finding the key, and they also find some supplies. Now, this is all Ben thinking of these things. Ben's great, smart, resourceful, perfect person to have in a zombie apocalypse.
Harry is short, bald, aggravated.
The worst person to have in an apocalypse. So they find supplies to make some Molotov cocktails in order to hold off the goons. I'm sorry, the goons.
Gotta get them goons.
In order to hold off the ghouls until they can get the truck like at the pump, until they can get the gas in the truck. So Ben and Tom determine that they're the ones that need to go because Ben was always going to go. He's brave. He's doing the damn thing. But he's like, I don't really know how to operate this truck. I commandeered it, but it's not mine. And Tom's like, I know how to use that truck. I'll come with you. Because Tom is also very brave. So we do have to give it up for Tom. Tom is a good character in this movie. So they make all of these plans and they decide that when they go out, they are going to have to remove the boards from the front door and they are going to have to exit it. So that is going to leave one door exposed. So they decide that it's going to be Harry's job to go upstairs, and from one of the upstairs windows, he's going to have to throw those Molotov cocktails down onto the ghouls so that they can get scared enough of the fire to back up, giving Ben and Tom enough time to get to the truck. So then Harry needs to run downstairs and he needs to lock that door up again, but don't board it so that Tom and Ben can get back inside. They decide that the women and the children will all wait in the cellar while all of this is happening. It's a plan that can work.
I think it's a really good plan.
I think it's a great plan.
Because it's movement. You know, you gotta try something.
Movement with a purpose. I think that they're doing the very best that they can in the situation. Now, Judy and Tom have a very heartfelt moment because Judy really doesn't want Tom to go outside. She's scared that he won't make it back. But Tom is super brave and he assures her that everything will be okay.
He trusts Ben.
He does trust Ben. Tom and Ben are really the only two very smart people in the movie. Helen is smart too. She just doesn't get a lot of opportunity to do anything. She has her faults, which we'll see.
She married Harry.
Right. But Tom really is a good character. I mean, he didn't ask a lot of questions. He uses reason. We really like Tom. But Tom is like, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. I mean, he seems like kind of worried, but he seems to trust the plan and he seems ready to do what needs to be done, just like Ben. So that's great. We're gearing up.
This is a random thought about the plan, but it made me think about, like, could you imagine having to do like a sit-in?
Damn, where did that come from?
Because it's like watching all this stuff and it's like they're having to prepare, they're having to go out and face might be certain death, just like getting like attacked. Because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to.
So this is my thing. I would like to think that
That you can do it.
That I'm a brave person when there's something to be brave for. If it was like just for myself, there's a lot of things that I won't do, but like for a greater good or for a friend, I've put myself in some pretty crazy situations, done some pretty crazy things. So I would like to think that I would be able to. But I don't know. I'm not in that situation.
I know, it's kind of just like, I was just thinking, dang, could I imagine having like, like, hey, we're going to do a sit-in, they're going to beat our ass. Could I go? And I was just thinking, like, with like Ben and Tom, can I do this? Would I be brave enough to?
If anything goes wrong, you could be you don't even have to die, but you'd be really hurt. You know what I mean? Just any little thing would really fuck you up.
Right, because death is not always the thing I'm worried about.
Right.
It's like being like hurt, like completely like paralyzed or something. You got Harry as like your backup, and he is, I mean, might as well wake up Barbara.
Exactly.
I don't know. That just made me think about that.
I don't know. It's tough to say how brave you'd be in a situation until you're in a situation. Yeah.
If you asked, like, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, you've been like, would you have been able to, like, fight off a ghost face? Yeah. 100%. I have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like a Michael Myers. Yeah, I got a plan. Stay away. Um,
Right, right.
but this one is just something about it. It's just like this just feels more like, even though it's a radioactive planet from Jupiter fell down, it still feels very real. You know?
It does feel real. I think some of that might have to do with one, these ghouls, because they don't call them zombies in the movie, but I mean, that's what they are, but they don't look crazy. They're just fucking people. They're just like flesh eating, kind of pale people. So that's a little bit more realistic.
Like drugged or unhoused, something.
Right. And then once we start getting to, I guess, a little bit more of like the gore, it's just like, it's straight up like in your face. Like it's not, there's not a lot of fanfare with it. It's just straight up like, if they catch you, they're gonna eat you, you know what I mean? Like that's a little bit more realistic. I don't know, it's just a lot. I understand what you mean, though. There's something about this movie that's part of the scariness of it, is that it feels so grounded in reality, you know, besides this like fucking space probe that bounced off of Venus and radioactive fell to Earth. I mean, but other than that, I understand what you're saying.
Because even like in the movie, like I don't know if you noticed this, but once they turn the radio on, even throughout the whole movie, you can hear it in the background.
Mm-hmm.
It never goes away. It just feels like you're kind of with them.
Right. There's no music.
Right.
Like there's no score or anything. They don't. It feels like seamless shots. It's not a lot of camera work. It's just, you're just like in this house with them. Yeah. No. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, so.
I don't know. I don't know. I would like to think I could be brave, but who knows? I know that I for damn sure wouldn't be like fucking Judy. So let's get to
Oh,
that. So the plan is in motion. We're in the midst of the plan. It's happening out of nowhere. Out of fucking nowhere. She should have been in the damn cellar. Judy decides at the very last possible fucking second that she's not going into the cellar. She's going to go with Tom. So she runs out of the house. Harry very feebly tries to tell her not to go, but as soon as she's across the threshold, he slams the fucking door and locks it behind her. So even when she gets out, there is a moment where she's kind of like,
this was bad there.
but she can't run back in because Harry locked the
That's
fucking
the
door behind
door.
her. So now she has to run to the car. Thankfully, she is able to run and get in the car. It's a little snafu, but okay, they make it. So they drive it to the gas pump, but absolutely fucking ridiculously, Tom pulls out the gas pump, and I guess they're all panicked because there are a lot of ghouls at this point. Like it's the number has multiplied. It's like everybody in the area, I guess, can sense that there's these live people in this house, so they're just like hoarding at this point. Ben has a torch, but that's really kind of all he has, because now they're away from the house. Harry did do his job by throwing down those Molotov cocktails, but now they're pretty defenseless at this point. So they just have I think Ben still has his rifle and he has a torch. So things are pretty hairy at this point. When Tom pulls out the gas pump, it pours gas directly on the torch that Ben had made. So now all the ground is on fire around them. And so Ben is like, fuck, you know, like he pulls the torch away to try to like alleviate some of that. But the car is also in the midst of the fire. So Ben puts out the fire near the pump so it doesn't explode, which is very smart. But Tom, which is also very smart, he gets in the truck because it's on fire and he drives it off because he's like, we can't let this truck explode near the pump, because even if we are able to find some other car or need gas to like put in a container to bring to a car, anything, if this pump explodes, we're screwed. So he's like, let's get the car as far away from the pump as possible. So I do applaud him for that, because remember, this truck is actively on fire. So Tom is a very brave character. So he drives it off. They get a far enough distance and they need to jump out and abandon it. Judy's fucking jacket. Judy shouldn't be in the car anyway, Jones. Her jacket gets stuck. She's not even fucking trying. Bitch, rip that fucking jacket off. So Tom's jumping out. He's like, okay, we gotta get the fuck out of here. She's like, I'm stuck. He goes in to try to help her, but the truck explodes and they are both killed.
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
Because it's so preventable.
Right. That's the second and third on-screen deaths. I was very upset.
She's so aggravating.
She was very aggravating. I mean, she was really, y'all, she was on 10, because it's like, I get it. You know, I loved Tom too. He was a good character and you got him killed.
Ben was looking at that car like, damn.
The way Ben's like, well, fuck.
That just really happened.
Because that was really crazy, because Tom was the only other sensible person in this whole fucking house, the only other able-bodied person that was helping Ben in any way, shape, or form. So I know he's probably like, fuck, that's crazy. It's sad that they died. They were clearly very, very, very in love. But also, they have no truck anymore. Not only do they not have a truck to even conceive of a plan to get out of here, Ben is now fucking stuck out here. This pump is a little ways away from the house. They drove to it. So now Ben is straight stuck out and the ghouls are closing in. So now they've drawn a lot of attention with that fucking explosion. But he has the torch. He is able to kind of fight them off with the torch. Thank God that didn't go out. He's able to fight his way back to the farmhouse, but when he gets there, Harry will not fucking unlock the door. I was like, this Harry is a real bitch. A fucking bitch.
And don't
I
you
was
worry.
furious.
Don't you worry.
So Ben, who's like, do you think I'm just gonna stand out here and let them eat me? Like, what did you think you were gonna accomplish with this? He fucking kicks that shit in. Forcefully kicks it in. He spots Harry cowering in the corner. He's like, okay, clocking him. He's right there. Let me gather myself. He has to hurry and board up this door again, because he does keep his wits about him, thankfully for that. Harry decides, because I know he's probably like, fuck, I didn't think he was going to be able to get back in. Harry's like, well, let me help him really quick to try to alleviate. He's helping him, but Ben decides it's a little too late for that, buddy boy. And he just starts fucking beating Harry's ass. As he fucking should.
I was
He
like,
starts,
dang.
what? As he fucking should. Harry needed to get his ass beat 25 minutes ago. Ben was nice for not doing it before. This ass whooping was late. It clocked in. It's getting a tardy at work. Harry had this coming. I was so sick of him at this point. I was like, damn, Harry's a fucking menace.
It's good because he needed it. You know, how some people be like, once they get their ass up, going good time, they could be cool.
That's not exactly the case here, but yes, he did need that. He needed it.
He on that sofa, nose bleeding, just looking
like a stupid idiot weakling.
At least Barbara had the nerve to just fall out one time.
Right, and then just like lay on the sofa, get out of the fucking way. So we then get a shot of zombies. So this is like the real.
Oh,
yeah. These were definitely the money shots of the movie. So the ghouls are tearing apart Judy and Tom and eating them. They're eating their organs, limbs, everything.
They're eating their intestines.
They were eating intestines. They were like just holding like fucking a lung, eating it straight up.
there's like it's close up. There's close up,
Mm-hmm.
like it's probably a turkey leg, but it's supposed to be like a person's leg, and it's just like he's eating it. It's so nasty looking.
Now it is, I think it's like for a scene in the truck, I think it's supposed to be an organ. It's like a big ham covered in Bosco's chocolate syrup.
Oh,
It's
that's what
shot
it
in
is.
black and white, and so all the like blood and stuff is like chocolate syrup because that's how it comes across on the screen. I thought that they did a really good job because I was grossed out watching it.
I had to like turn my screen.
Think about what they were doing in 68. Like if they were passing out in the theaters in 73 watching Reagan get a medical procedure, think about what people were doing in the theaters watching them fucking eat lungs and stuff. I was like, what masterful filmmaking. They really made me in 2024 believe that they were eating fucking
It was
livers.
so nasty.
Shout out to George A. Romero. Shout out. I'm going to make a post, another Horror Legends post, because good on you. That shit was gross. This movie's so, I
Good.
mean, like, it's so good. They just did such a good job. I mean, huge props. So, back at the house, I don't want you to think that Barbara has made any progress, you guys. She's still delirious and she's just fucking babbling. So Ben is trying to think because somebody in this house has to fucking think, right? Ben asks Helen and Harry how far away their car is and if they think that it's usable. If they're able to all flip it back over, would it be useful? Harry reveals that it's about a mile away, but it would be impossible to get there with their sick daughter. And this is how much of a bitch Harry is. Harry is a fucking bitch. He, with a fucking dripping with attitude, he asks Helen, what are you gonna do? Carry her for a mile? And Ben's like, I'll fucking carry her, you piece of shit. Because logically, you as her father would be the one carrying her, don't you think? But he doesn't even offer because that's how much of a bitch he is.
He's little.
Dante. He's small in a lot of ways.
I just can't stand him.
Ben was really shitting all over Harry. I loved it.
Yeah.
So that's when Ben asked, like, hey, how did Karen get hurt anyway? And Helen reveals, y'all, Karen was bit by one of the ghouls when they attacked them earlier.
I cannot believe you just shared to us that your daughter got bit by one of those ghouls.
She said it so fucking casually, and I know we at home
Was mad. I know Ben was like, I gotta kill everybody in this room.
Ben is so fucking exhausted at this point, but like, this is a thing that we do have to point out. So, they don't realize the significance of this right now. And that's because we talked about this before with episodes like The Exorcist, like with the Ouija board. That the Ouija board, like, Chris is so nonchalant about Reagan using the Ouija board because we as a collective people did not become afraid of the Ouija board until it was like stuff like that. This movie basically wrote the manual on everything that we know about zombies moving forward. So the bite, they wouldn't know. I mean, I feel like you could probably reason that. Either way, she's dying, right? So you know when she dies, she's gonna turn, but whatever. Everything that we know about their movements. So these, like George, I always hear people talk about like, oh, well, what kind of zombies? Like George A. Romero zombies or like World War Z zombies. You know, there's clearly a difference. So this kind of like slow moving, thoughtless type zombie, that is something that was like invented here. His destroying the brain, like shooting them in the brain or the fire, all of that came from this. This is the manual for the modern day. I mean, just any zombie stuff moving forward. So the fact that they don't realize the significance of the bite, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll give you that. But yeah, this is another reason this movie is very influential. So Barbara, who's still on the sofa rambling, so in her ramblings, she is mentioning how she and Johnny had a car, but that Johnny has the keys, so they can't start the car. And Ben is like, bitch, what'd you say? Y'all had a car? And she's like, yes, but you won't be able to drive it without the keys. Now, Ben remembers that Johnny died at the cemetery. So if Johnny's body is still there, they should be able to get the keys. He thinks either way, they should be able to like get to this car and use it. Just then, another news alert comes on. And this time they learn that the radiation from the probe is only getting stronger. But they do say that there are militia groups that are being formed. So essentially a bunch of men with guns. And they're going out to shoot the ghouls. They also learned that the ghouls can be destroyed by damaging the brain. So either by shooting them in the head or beating them in the head. And that's where this idea of like kill the brain, kill the ghoul comes from. As they're dead, they are, and I quote, slow and all messed up. So it should be easy for you to get to the brain and you'll be fine as long as they don't hoard you. But just at that moment when they're getting this very crucial information, the power in the house goes out. So Ben starts to look for a fuse box, and Harry starts whispering to Helen that he has to get Ben's gun. And he's like, well, 2 people are already dead because of him.
Just go to the basement.
Just go in the cellar. That's where you want to be anyway. What's the reasoning for you to be up here? You didn't even know that gun was in here. Y'all came into this house and you implored no initiative. You didn't look for supplies. You didn't look for a gun. You didn't board up anything. And now that Ben has done all these things, you're like, well, I want what he has. I want to reap the benefits of all the work that he's put in. It's just too much. Just go hide in the fucking basement. That was your plan anyway, right? Like you were complaining about all the boards that were loose, but you never reinforced them. Y'all, I'm sure that these people have another gun somewhere in the house. Go search the fucking house. Like, you've done nothing. But at that point, ghouls start breaking in. And Helen and Ben are doing their best to hold the barricades. Harry is not helping at fucking all. Just then, because he's working so hard trying to keep the ghouls out, Ben ends up dropping his gun. And Harry, like the bitch that he is, runs over and grabs it and holds the gun on Ben and says, see, I bet you want to be in the cellar now. Dante, how weak, how insecure.
How accurate.
This character was
Needed.
this is a real person, and that is so fucking sad. I hate this character. I mean, my blood was boiling. But because he's so weak and stupid, Ben is able to just hit him straight up with a board.
What did he think was going to happen to him? If he just, unless he shot Ben right away, he was like, he just whooped your ass earlier. So you ain't had enough.
No, he was like, please beat my ass again. Please. He's like, you had enough? Or you thirsty for more? So Ben beats his ass again. And then Ben is fucking over it. Ben looks at him and he just straight up shoots him. Because at this point, enough is enough, right?
Yeah, it's life or death.
It's life or death. There's nothing more that I can do. I cannot reason with you. I can't talk to you. You are a danger. You have almost gotten me killed a few times at this point.
You locked that door. I'm never going to forgive you for that.
No, he wanted to kill him then, but he didn't. And that was merciful. So then Harry stumbles into the cellar and he ends up dying next to his daughter, who also dies very soon after, if not at the same time. So that's the 4th and 5th kind of partial, on-screen kill. So now Helen is being grabbed through the door as ghouls are breaking in. But just when she seems done for, like a phoenix from the ashes, bless her, Barbara decides to join the land of the fucking living.
Shit.
She is able to rush over and she pushes the ghouls off. So that's how Helen is able to escape. And so she runs into the cellar where she finds a reanimated Karen, her daughter, eating her dead father, Harry. I liked Helen a lot. I thought she was reasonable. I thought she's a woman in 68, so she didn't have a ton of power.
And they weren't going to write her that way.
Exactly. So I felt she did what she could. She kind of, held her own as much as she could in the movie. I was a fan. This death, I was exhausted. She sees Karen eating her father. You heard the news. So you're very informed. You know that when they die, they come back, they crave the flesh of the living. These things happen. She was bit. You knew she had a fever. She died. Helen doesn't leave. She doesn't run away. It's the slowest death scene I've ever fucking witnessed. Helen starts slowly backing up and she ends up tripping on the floor. And then I guess just fucking accepting her fate because I wish that she'd grabbed a pillow and a blanket while she was down there because she literally lays on the floor while Karen stands up from eating her father. She finds a small gardening tool, a small like spade. She walks over from 300 yards away. It's so laughably far away, and Karen is walking so laughably slow. It's like if you how you have the skip 10 seconds button when you're watching something, like you could press that. Like it was so laughably slow. She just lays there and watches as Karen comes up to her, and she just starts stabbing her mother to death with this spade. And that's the sixth on-screen kill. And I was like, Helen, why did you let this happen to you? Was she in shock because it was her daughter? I don't fucking get it. Am I being a bitch? I don't know.
It's just the whole family. I think that she may have had part of what Barbara had.
I have to assume that it must be shocking to see your daughter
Either person?
yeah, right, eat her father. I have to assume that she was in shock. She gets stabbed to death with a spade. It's really visceral. They made it seem very realistic. It's really slow and deliberate stabs all to her like chest and abdomen. So they did a good job with that. I hated that she died that way, but okay. So upstairs, Ben and Barbara are doing their best to hold off the ghouls, but the ghouls are breaking in fast. And once the door is broken in, Barbara comes face to face with an undead Johnny. And she was already very loosely raveled at this point, but this is it. She kind of loses it. I mean, she's done.
She's a pile of sand.
Exactly. I mean, dust in the wind because she kind of stands there. She kind of has a panic attack, and Johnny is able to grab her and he drags her out along with the rest of the horde. So that's the seventh on screen kill. Barbara dies.
It's almost like if she got like swept away in the sea. It's just like she's just gone.
She gets engulfed by
Ghouls.
these ghouls. Yeah. She's gone. That's it. I mean, like we started the movie with Barbara. I was reading that Barbara was written differently. I was reading that Barbara was originally written as like a bit of a stronger character. At the very least, a little bit more like Helen. I don't know. I think maybe a little bit more strong-willed like Ben. But they changed that, and I hate that. I hated Barbara's character. I guess we're supposed to feel like there was some redemption when she got up because she did save Helen from being killed, and she was helping Ben try to keep the ghouls out, but I just feel like Barbara was a really wasted character. I feel like she was a waste of space. I feel like the movie having her there meant nothing.
Do you know if they changed it before or after they cast Dwayne Jones?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Could they not have a strong black man and a strong woman in a 1968 movie?
Right. I don't
You,
know.
you guys, we have to ask these questions. You know
I
how it
mean,
was.
well, because that was the reality. In 1968, that was the reality. So at this point, Ben is faced with about 100 ghouls pouring into the house.
And they look so real and they're so unsettling. You don't think he's going to get out.
You don't think he's gonna, I mean, he's really fucked because they're all pouring in,
There's so many of them.
but also an undead Karen is coming up from the basement too. So he's able to fight off Karen. Thankfully, she's small. And he ends up barricading himself in the cellar, which this is exactly where he did not want to be. In the basement, thank God he had that gun because he does have to contend with Harry and Helen, who do end up reanimating. He shoots Harry because he was like, if I shot you once, I'll shoot you again.
I just don't like you, man.
Right. He's like, I probably would have shot you anyway. So then, just when all hope seems lost, somehow Ben survives the night. I guess they don't sense him in the cellar, can't get down to the cellar. And we make it to the next morning, and the police and the armed militia are in the area. They're trying to clear out the last of the ghouls. And Ben is awoken by the sound of their guns and sirens. So now the militia is really shooting just everything in sight. They're not really asking questions. They're not checking. They're not confirming. It's just on sight, see you, shoot you in the head. So when Ben emerges from the cellar and he walks up to look out the window, one of the armed men just shoots him in the head and kills him. They then, the way that it's shot is kind of in stills.
Still photos.
Yes, it's like a bunch of still photos pieced together because they end up taking his body. They use these hooks to pick up his body and they just throw it into the bonfire to be burned with the rest of the ghouls. And all of this is happening as the credits are starting to roll. So Ben is the 8th and final on-screen kill. And I hated it. It broke my heart. Every single time I'm like, please just fucking don't. But Ben ends up getting killed by this militia anyway. He survived all those ghouls, all that stupidity, just to get killed by this armed militia at the end.
It's like wow, that's shocking.
That ending.
It's so goddamn shocking because it just happens.
I know they don't. It so he gets shot. And then they start using these still photos, and we see them just straight put Ben's body into this fucking ghoul burn pile. I mean, it's so raw. It's so like visceral, right? Like you're like, wait, before you even have time to grapple with the idea that the protagonist, the person that we've been rooting for this entire movie, has been shot. They're burning his body. And they never know. They never find out that he was actually alive.
We love Ben, but it's such a. I think that ending is so. This is 1968.
Mm-hmm.
We are not afraid to lose these characters. Everybody dies.
Everybody dies. It's really iconic. It is definitely an ending to remember. Like this is a ending to a movie. You know what I mean? Like how fucking strong. Because I guess you're like, if he had lived, I don't think the movie would have still been impactful. I don't even want to say that because the practical effects, the camera work, what they were able to do with that tight ass budget,
The lore of the ghouls.
yes, as progressive as they were, being the first to pave the way for just like the zombie movement. I mean, it all would have been a movie to remember. I think we would still be talking about it, but that ending. Kudos to George A. Romero.
Every time I watch it, it's shocking.
I mean, killed it. So, speaking of killed it, the kill count of the movie, so it's 8. So there's 4 by ghouls, 2 in a flaming truck, one by Gardening Tool, and then one by Militia. Ben. So the Rotten Tomatoes for this movie, so it's a 95% critic and an 87% audience. And now that's good, but
Let's push it up.
yeah, this needs to be high. I feel like this movie definitely needs a 90 plus audience score. I mean, I just can't. I hate people that like shit on people for like not liking a movie. I really can't stand that because everything's so subjective. Everybody likes different things. That's what makes it great. But I really like, I'm gonna be very, very honest. I just cannot see what you don't like about this movie.
The Night of the Living Dead was good-ish. It was short. It looks like something from Call of Duty, if being honest. And the ending wasn't expected and made me feel like the end was rushed.
What does that mean?
These are the people who give these movies 3 stars. I'm just letting you know. So you're going on and on about I'm trying to be nice and subjective, but I'm letting you know there's no reason to be that subjective because these people are comparing a movie from 1968 to a goddamn video game that came out in 2005.
I don't even understand why you would say compare it to Call of Duty. What are you talking about? Also, the ending doesn't feel rushed. The ending is impactful. Dante, I'm shook.
I'm just letting you know this is the kind of stuff. This movie was good for the timeline that it was made in. Ben was also a good actor and the scenes were decent. The zombies compared to zombies in recent scary movies are so different. These zombies were not scary and they don't really look like zombies. I liked the movie except for the ending. I thought that was just stupid. Overall, I don't think I'll watch this again, but it wasn't a bad movie. This movie is unintentionally funny. Y'all be y'all be on the internet. Maybe it was fascinating in 1968, but 2003, nah, slow. Watching a guy board the windows, it's just not scary. Yawn.
Okay, but it does have a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb with 138,000 reviews. That's a respectable number. Okay, 7.8 out of 10. Okay.
We can move forward. Let me just say this. I don't understand how you can be like hilarious, cheap, and choppy by today's standards, but a landmark achievement back in 1968. 3 stars.
But why are you comparing something that happened in 1968 to today? Why?
And then be like, it's not good because it's not as good as it could have been if you would have just made it 40 years later. It would have been better. It's like, what are you talking about? That's
What are
crazy,
you
right?
talking about? Yes. Like, think that through. Think about what you're saying.
Your thinking cap.
It's not on.
Go put it on.
Put it on. So many movies wouldn't exist without this movie coming out first. It's like, where's the fucking respect?
Night of the Living Dead is a low-budget piece of crap where its age has only done its injustice. It has no reason being as bad and boring as it is because there is nothing of value here. If you accept the horrible camera work, bad acting, and unimpressive effects, you're left with the slowest moving plot you'll ever see. When I hear about zombies, I think about action, survival, character, development, external conflict. Well, good thing that the only concept we get this entire movie is about whether the characters want to stay on the ground floor or go to the cellar, an argument that goes on for half an hour.
It doesn't.
I have no idea why anyone would want to watch it because you get absolutely nothing out of it, positive or negative. The only good thing this movie did was inventing the zombie subgenre.
The only good thing this movie did was invent an entire subgenre.
Subgenre?
What the hell do you want? What do you want?
Cool, that's great. It does not mean I have to like the movie. I judge a movie for what it is, not how other movies copied its premise. You don't judge a movie how influential it is. You sound absolutely silly. You're not a smart person, and I don't think that you deserve good things.
Right.
I don't respect stuff like that.
All of the people that make the movies that you love give this movie credit for inspiring them. There wouldn't be any movies that you love without this. Every director from Quentin Tarantino to fucking Rob Zombie to fucking your darling John Carpenter give credit to George A. Romero. They give the credit where the credit is due. You have to.
But to say I don't judge a movie based on
How influential it is.
I judge it on what it is and not on what movie's copied its premise. That's a hallmark of a good movie. That it's copied.
Right. So like if it's something that is worthy of being copied, it is something that was good. It's something that has merit. That's why people copied it. This is why I don't read the reviews. I just look at the scores because I don't like getting so heated.
I just can't believe someone would really think that influential movie doesn't deserve
Credit for being influential.
influential.
So let's get to the fun facts because my chest hurts. So in 1999, this film was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress, and it was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. It's actually one of the most profitable independent movies ever made. So it was made for only, it was $114,000, which is somewhere, I think, a little bit closer to like $1 million now, like 900,000 something. But it grossed approximately $30 million, which is bonkers.
I know.
Because so that's the equivalent to somewhere like, I guess, maybe like 250 something. It was over 263 times its budget. George A. Romero used guerrilla filmmaking techniques that he'd honed as he worked in the industry doing like commercials and stuff. So he didn't have a budget for like a proper set. So the farmhouse where they shot it at, it was actually condemned and they rented it from the people. It was actually supposed to be destroyed anyway. So they ended up destroying it over the course of filming. But yeah, they actually had to spend time cleaning it to make it look like it was something that was actually lived in. But that's how like shoestring their budget was. So this was actually one of the last films released before the adoption of the Motion Picture Association of America rating system, the MPAA. So that was actually put into place 1 month later. So the film's explicit violence and gore were considered crazy groundbreaking, and it actually led to a lot of controversy and negative reviews because I think at the time, like a kid could just go see this movie, like anybody could just buy a ticket to this. So George A. Romero, like I said earlier, because he was just really unfamiliar with kind of
The business.
yeah, the business side of making the movie, he actually saw very little profit from this film, which is really sad. It's crazy because it made so much money. I mean, think about how much money that is. But he just didn't really understand. He didn't have any knowledge regarding like the distribution deals and stuff like that. So really the people that distributed the movie walked away with almost all the profits. So the script for the movie primarily drew inspiration from Richard Matheson's 1954 novel I Am Legend, which is funny. It was highly influential. A lot of people I've read found a lot of influence in the I Am Legend book. Like we said earlier, the word zombie is never used in the movie. The most common euphemism for describing the reanimated is like they just keep saying those things. On the news, some other characters refer to them as like ghouls. They say flesh eaters. But even though they don't use the word zombie, the film really created a lot of those tropes about zombies that they used in almost all movies since then, including zombies eating human flesh and zombies that can only be killed by shooting them in the head. So Dwayne Jones, who plays Ben, the casting was very controversial in 1968. So it was very rare for a black man to be cast as a hero of an American film, especially one primarily composed of white actors. But Romero just said Jones had the best performance in his audition. If I'm not mistaken, I think that Ben, this was the very first time a black protagonist was cast in a horror movie.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the fact. So the lead role for Ben was initially written not for a white actor, but I think that whenever white men are writing, they're writing white characters,
I
right?
agree. I agree.
Like I think George A. Romero, his like hero would be somebody that looks like him, a white male. But upon casting Dwayne Jones, Romero intentionally did not alter the script to reflect that it was a black actor. He just kind of left it as is. And the film appeared in theaters at a time when it was like super rare for black actors to just be in movies anyway, but also just playing a leading role. And so there was like some really rare exceptions, like Sidney Poitier, who was consciously a black hero.
Character.
Yes. So it was when Sidney Poitier was in a movie, there was a lot of talk about his race. This included no talks of Ben's race, which was really nice. It was very refreshing because I feel like if this was written in 2024, somebody would have called him the N word, right? That
Yeah.
somebody would have thrown that jab out there. So I love that.
The undertone between him and Harry would have been overtone.
Exactly. But you get none of that. And I love that about the movie. So, defying the contemporary stereotype of black men, Romero presented Ben as a heroic, gentle, sympathetic character, which is another reason that cock to Barbara's jaw doesn't really fit for me. So, with his death being at the hands of like crazed white men, a lot of people feel like that's really symbolic of the racism of the mid 20th century, where many Americans tend to dehumanize black people as lesser. It was definitely a issue at the time, 68. So this is like around the time of like the civil rights movement. So it was like a really big deal. So, shout out to George A. Romero. It's not even like he did a lot, right? Like he cast Dwayne Jones, which was great. We love that you took a chance on him. I think he made an excellent Ben.
Yes.
But he just, he made some tweaks to the character to make Ben more of an academic because that's how Dwayne Jones is in real life. But he didn't change the script. He didn't feel the need to make it like, well, let me just point out, oh,
He
he's
black.
right. Like, oh, he's smart for a black guy. Oh, he has some really good ideas for a black guy. You know what I mean? Like he was just like, no, in this movie, Ben is smart, reasonable, level-headed. Like he is the
The
hero of
man.
this film. Right.
Meanwhile, Harry is short, bad-tempered, ugly, useless.
I mean, he is. I don't. I know beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but Harry
Tired of these
is.
lies. Frumpy. Whole wife was like, I can't stand living with you because I can't look
His
at you.
wife was. So people assume that Ben was cast on purpose just to kind of create some social commentary because the film was made during segregation. That wasn't the case. The social commentary was like just totally unintentional. That wasn't the purpose of this film. And it ended, the movie did end up being extremely applicable to the time. So it's good that it was a talking point. In the future, George A. Romero did end up adding some social commentary to subsequent sequels. They're not all about race. Like there's one that's like it's on consumerism and stuff, but this one was no. This was just like a straight up zombie movie.
I really like it.
I like it too. Yeah, so I guess hit or miss.
Another hit.
Another hit for me too. This was a good one. I really like this one.
I think everybody should watch it. It's always on Shudder. If you have Shudder, it's always on Shudder.
And then George A. Romero did rewrite the script for the remake too. So if you want to see Tony Todd in the role of Ben, that is a true remake written by the same writer and director. So Do you want to tell them about the social media?
Yes, I do. Everyone, please, if you haven't already started, follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook and YouTube. It's all Did You Get That on Film? By chance you don't have any social media, you can please contact us via email at didyouggethatonfilm@gmail.com. We love hearing your comments as well as your suggestions. We just are very, very, very happy that there's such a is it big enough to call it a community of people who listen and like
Yeah, I'd like to
our
think that we have
content.
a little community. We have a lot of friends that we talk to a lot, and we appreciate all of you.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's just such a good thing, and it's so positive. We're very happy about that.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I know that you were saying suggestions. If there's ever a movie that you want us to cover, we have a schedule for 2024. We put a few, every time somebody requests a movie, we put it on the list. If there's anything that you want to hear, please. I mean, we love doing listener requests. So if you want to email us at the email address is didyouggetthatonfilm@gmail.com. And then we're most active on Instagram. So if you want to message us on that too, just let us know if there's anything that you guys want to hear. So yeah, I guess that's it. So a quick
Yes,
one.
it was awesome.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.